Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us and joining us for a really interesting discussion today. We are talking about volunteering. If you did not hear the news, Charity Navigator has launched volunteering on our platform for the very first time, and really excited to walk through what that means for you and all the benefits that you can get by using Charity Navigator's site to find volunteer opportunities. I'm Kevin Scally. I'm the Chief Relationship Officer at Charity Navigator, and I'm joined by a couple folks who really helped make this all happen. Joining me today is Sam, who is the founder and CEO of Golden, and I also have Hallie, who's the community manager at Golden. But again, thank you so much for joining. We're going to jump right into it. Before we do, though, I also wanted to give a quick shout out to Stacy Steele, who's our Director of Marketing Communications. She's behind the scenes advancing all the slides and answering your questions as they come in. If there's a simple question is like, can you send me that link? She'll do that in a moment. And she'll also be taking questions throughout that she'll be then sharing with myself and Sam and Hallie, and we'll be answering at the end. So if you have any questions, please ask them and we will do our best to get to all of them. And I do want to remind everyone that the broadcast is going to be recorded and we will be sending a copy of this to you after the fact so you can share it with your friends and family. So it's all here. And if we move on to the next slide, I can just go back just one. All right. So yeah, we're going to be talking about how volunteering benefits you and also your general community and the world around you. There's a lot more that goes into volunteering than you're likely aware of. So we'll be talking about that, whether you're new to volunteering or you're a seasoned veteran. I think that there'll be a lot that you can garner from that. We'll also be talking about volunteering during the pandemic. So different options to consider, as well as the safety guidelines. So obviously volunteering looks very different now than it did just a year ago. And if you haven't volunteered in a couple of years, certainly drastically different. So Sam and Hallie will walk through that. We'll also be talking about the partnership between Charity Navigator and Golden, how this impacts the future of Charity Navigator, as well as some potential new features that will be rolling out in the future as well. And then we'll get down to brass tacks and we'll talk through how to actually sign up and search for volunteer opportunities. And again, we'll save some time at the end for any and all questions that come through. Now, a little bit about Charity Navigator and where we've been for past 12 months throughout the pandemic is that we've been working really hard on a number of different strategic initiatives, and this is certainly one of them. As far as our ratings go, which we're very well known as being the premier trust indicator of the nonprofit sector, is we've actually scaled up the number of nonprofits that we've rated from 9,000 to more than 160,000. So that was done through July, and it was done through the Encompass rating system. We're also, through the Encompass rating system, we're increasing the depth of our evaluations and looking at new areas of nonprofit effectiveness. So if you've been keeping a finger on the pulse of Charity Navigator, you've likely seen the Impact and Results Beacon that launched in October, and also our Culture and Community Beacon that actually just launched earlier this month. So we have some new areas of nonprofit effectiveness that can help inform your giving as well as volunteering. And we've also been really focused on how the pandemic is impacting nonprofits. So doing surveying throughout the pandemic, as well as giving nonprofits the opportunity to make sure that the ways that the pandemic is affecting them aren't necessarily negatively financially impacting their ratings as well. So looking for stories of adaptation and innovation, and we'll be sharing more information on that to come. But I do want to just plant that seed is that we are super hyper aware of the financial impact that the pandemic has had on certain nonprofits, and certainly aren't holding that against them. We're also a giving platform. So some of you that are joining this call likely have used Charity Navigator's Giving Basket. It's a really convenient way to support multiple nonprofits in one convenient checkout. And just last year alone, we raised more than $30 million for thousands of nonprofits. And since the launch of that platform over the past 5 years, we've raised more than $120 million. And I'll hand things over to Sam to give a quick background on Golden.
Thanks, Kevin, and it's a pleasure to be with everybody here today. For us, this is a really exciting partnership because we're lending all of the expertise that Charity Navigator has brought to understanding what organizations are, and then reducing a lot of the barriers to becoming involved with those organizations in all forms of engagement. And we really appreciate everybody's time and attention today, because we're hoping to broaden the conversation of giving and philanthropy from conventionally where it's been. And this has been a really interesting year for exposing where our society stands and where there's opportunity for improvement. And there's never been a better time to be a volunteer, both in terms of what it means to be helpful and the different ways that you can go about doing that. So before we get started, I'd just love to share a little bit of history and where we came from. This is personally my second social venture in the tech and volunteering space. And it's been a personal interest of mine since I was in high school and I first became interested in volunteering. And like many of you who will have tried over the past years to volunteer, you may have discovered that just having the inclination to want to be helpful isn't the exact same thing as actually volunteering. There's a huge number of steps in between being inspired to volunteer and actually serving that you may not know about. And after doing extensive research on how volunteering could be more approachable and more engaging over time, I ended up going to Stanford both as an undergrad and a graduate student, where I studied how volunteering and lifetime giving are related to each other. So a lot of that expertise, plus our other team members' expertise, has been lended to these products, and they started from a volunteer perspective, not from an organizer perspective. So the first products we launched were apps that personalized volunteer opportunities to anybody of any background, and then automated all the steps that are involved in participating in those activities. And that includes things like personalizing content to you based on what your declared preferences are, things like how far you want to travel, what you're interested in, what times you're free, to behavioral indicators like what do we know that you've done in the past and enjoyed, what are your friends doing that they enjoy, to predictive indicators, meaning based on everything we know about you, what do we think might be really interesting for you over time, and how do we help you discover and participate in those things. And so the result of that is that we have produced native iOS and Android apps that are the top ranked apps in the world for volunteering, the most popular apps for volunteering. We also have a web application, so you don't have to download a mobile app if you don't want to. There's some benefits though to the mobile app, because we can use location services to navigate you places, automatically check you in and out, keep track of what you've been doing, integrate with your calendar, your contacts, and so forth. But you can also get a lot of value out of these web applications, and especially the new volunteer portal on Charity Navigator. If you go to volunteer.charitynavigator.org, you'll be able to see and sign up for these opportunities, whether or not you have had an existing history giving or just engaging with the organization that you're looking at. And the other thing that's really great about this platform is we can help keep track of your impact in ways that you may not know about. So that includes how much time you're spending, the tax value of the time that you're spending, the skills-based value of the time that you're spending, your output, how effective you've been at getting other people to volunteer, and you'll be able to carry all of this with you wherever you go to volunteer. So it's a unique system because it's kind of your digital wallet for volunteering. It doesn't matter where you go, it doesn't matter when you do it, who you want to share the data with, it's your data and your journey. And we're just there to help you personalize it a little bit more. Next slide, please. So now I think we'll transition and talk a little bit about why it's so interesting to volunteer. And I'm going to touch on some themes that we'll probably address from other perspectives in later parts of this presentation, but there are a lot of preconceptions that most people have about volunteering. And the first time that you find your way to volunteering, it may be because somebody else encouraged you to do it rather than an internal interest, or it may be because you've reached some point in your life where volunteering makes a lot of sense, like you're transitioning careers, you move to a new place, you've experienced loss and you want to develop different kinds of relationships. These are all really common journeys that volunteering can help facilitate. And when you volunteer, you as a participant appreciate all kinds of benefits. And they begin with what happens when you do the things you would have otherwise been doing, just in a context where it's more helpful to other people. And the first thing that happens is You adopt somebody else's perspective, you walk in their shoes, you understand the world around you in a slightly different way, a more holistic way. And based on that change in perception, you also become much more aware of the issues that face the society we live in today and what you can personally do to help improve the state of affairs of those things, both through volunteering and through giving. And so here are the few, a few of the benefits that you get from volunteering in addition to those. A lot of them are also wellness related. So there's a lot of academic research beyond the research that we've done as a team that validates how helpful this is. It drives happiness over your lifetime. It helps you increase your earning potential, increases an overall sense of well-being, helps you stay really skilled if you're going to transition and do other tasks. And so it's a great firsthand way to expose yourself to things that you may not know about, to improve your ability to be effective and helpful for others who you may know or you may not know, and also to sustain, a sense of meaning and purpose throughout your life. And when you go to think about giving, you'll now have a totally different perspective about the resources that you're contributing to an organization and how they may be used. So we like to think of volunteering as, the front door to any organization. Whereas maybe mailing a check might be just, the mailbox to the organization. What we want is for you to understand everything that a group is doing toward improving the state of the world toward their mission statement, and for you to feel like an inseparable part of that operation. Next slide, please. So again, some more benefits. We like to think of volunteering from the perspective of just doing the things you would otherwise be doing or be interested in doing in a context where you can be more helpful. Of course, there are all kinds of emergencies and other needs that come up, which we're going to talk about, and that may be what you're passionate about. But you can also just as easily do things like reading books or riding horses or going to the beach in a context where you're improving things for other people. Next slide, please. So volunteering has also changed in huge ways since probably the last time all of us, thought about it and discussed it as a sector or as a group of people who are interested in philanthropy. And one of the ways that it's changed most essentially is that the formats of engagement have evolved. It's no longer just going to a place and doing a thing, like traditionally going to a soup kitchen or beach cleanup or tree planting. It can be those things on an episodic or an ongoing basis, but it can also be virtual opportunities, webinars, projects that are done on your own time, serving on an advisory or a directorship position on a board. Could be peer-to-peer tasks where you're helping a neighbor out. Could be mentoring. Could be skills-based, doing things that you do for work in a context that's pro bono or could benefit others. Could be through your company, could be through your place of worship, could be through your school, many other contexts. So we as a technology platform try to facilitate all these pathways, all these different formats of engagement, all the different ways you may discover or collaborate with others to volunteer. Part of the way that we facilitate that is by moving all the process that used to be offline into a streamlined, trustworthy, fully compliant, fully secure and protected set of workflows for you, the participant. That includes things like, how do you find what's available? How do you sign up? How do you do a background check? How do you get screened? How do you get qualified for skills-based positions? All that's fully automated through our technology. So when you find something you want to do, you can sign up. It'll take seconds to sign up. And then the platform will get to know you over time, and with your permission, share whatever is essential for the organizer to know about you, so that you don't have to get held up in like months of back and forth coordinating to see if you're qualified or what might be available for you to do. On the other side, we provide the world's most award-winning software for managing volunteer programs, both free and professional grade products. And as a result of that, we work with thousands of organizers, and now hopefully more and more of the folks who are getting rated by Charity Navigator, to help them offload all the things that slow down their ability to work with you. So what you may not see is that behind the scenes, organizers spend a lot of time trying to understand who you are, how to recruit you, get to know you, how to introduce you to the programs that they offer and get you engaged in those programs. And prior to Golden, those processes were all done over the phone, email, on Excel. And now it's all automated. It's a collaborative environment between you and them, or you and your place of worship, or your school, or your company. The other thing that we've tried to do is get beyond what an online understanding of volunteering used to be. And to be really clear, that used to just mean listing services, posting general ideas about what volunteer opportunities or organizations existed, but not give you clear pathways to actually register for those activities or treat the activities themselves as live inventory. So we've moved basically heaven and earth to redesign the process of structuring a volunteer opportunity to make them function like live inventory. And the result of that is you as a volunteer can have an experience that feels like hotels.com or Airbnb or Priceline or Uber Eats or OpenTable, where you can find the things that look appealing to you. You can get an authentic understanding of what they're all going to be about, and you can instantly sign up, and that spot is yours. And you can cancel it or you can move it, but you're being held accountable for going, and the organizer is accountable for showing up. And by establishing that level of trust, we've eliminated all the back and forth that used to be required to coordinate, schedule, get screened, keep track of what you did and report it to your employer. All those kinds of things are happening in real time now.
So one of the things, Sam, that you shared that I think is really enlightening is kind of shifting your own perspectives of ways that you can volunteer. So Sam shared a little bit about the traditional ways that people think of volunteering, of soup kitchens and beach cleanups. But just to provide an example of one of the ways that person that's connected with Charity Navigator is volunteering and helping us out is that there's a supporter of Charity Navigator who's used us for a number of years. He comes from a world of crunching numbers and was naturally drawn to Charity Navigator as a result of taking his giving very seriously. He's retired at this point. He thinks about his giving essentially as a part-time or even a full-time job. And he works alongside of the nonprofits that he financially supports. He's also volunteering and helping them drive them programmatically. So for Charity Navigator, he's taking his wealth of experience in the for-profit world and he's bringing it over. And as we're developing our rating system and specifically the upcoming leadership and adaptability beacon, he's working right alongside of our chief rating technology officer and our director of nonprofit engagement and developing the metrics alongside with them. So it's incredibly valuable to an organization like us, which, we're a pretty small but mighty organization, to have somebody that has this wealth of knowledge that's willing to donate it to us and really make some serious changes. So I do think that it starts to kind of shift the perspective of what volunteering really is and how much of a difference you can make, because the value that we're getting from this individual that's working alongside of us, we would have to pay tens of thousands of dollars to be able to do that, which is it's not possible for us to be able to do that. So it's been incredibly impactful. So as you're thinking about your giving, also think of ways that you can give in other ways.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. That's an excellent point. And before I get into the pandemic themes, this is sort of a call to action, especially when we come to the question and answer section, for everybody here to think of themselves holistically as a philanthropist, and what sort of philanthropist do you want to be? Do you want to be one that's there to support when the organization needs you? Do you want to be one who's applying critical thinking or leveraging your network toward what's an improvement for them? And for us, a lot of that begins with volunteering. That is the lowest barrier to engagement in all of its different forms. But we want you to use the conviction that you develop from your firsthand experience to improve your ability to advocate for what the organization needs, to give you much more personal relevance and urgency when it comes to donating at the optimal times for the organization. And we just want you to feel like you can give to your full potential, and that it's based on a set of experiences that you're having. It's not just based on who reaches out to you and asks for different things. So we want to shift the power dynamic a little bit and put the ability to navigate the journey of being a philanthropist in your hands, rather than, say, just development officers. Thanks, Stacy. Okay, so the pandemic changed everything for everybody. I think that probably goes without saying, but if you can put yourself in the shoes of some of the organizations that you love the most, just imagine what they've been going through over the last year. And that usually looked like, well, if they had a volunteer program was probably very physically based. You'd have to go into the office or get trained maybe. or be in touch with somebody who's coordinating. And during shelter-in-place guidelines, there really wasn't the ability to bring big groups of people together, nor was it sensible to bring big groups of people together to do traditional volunteering. And so the formats changed very fast. Like I mentioned before, they're digital and project-based things that have been feasible for the last several years. But in 2020, these were all adopted by any mission critical organizer. So if you think about the needs that most organizations that we care about supporting are doing, many of them have been increased during a period of time where people are isolated, where capacity to serve those who are most vulnerable has been decreased. And the organizations that build capacity have had to figure out ways to deliver their programs that are unconventional, which usually means moving things online that can be done online, things like webinars and trainings. But it can also mean empowering people in the field to self-organize or to do projects remotely or in a distributed peer-to-peer or one-on-one fashion. So all the technology that we're talking about today through Charity Navigator, through Golden, will work across all these different types of volunteering, whether it's disaster relief or regular or ongoing volunteering. We're going to help you do mutual aid activities that are peer-to-peer. We're going to help you do digital activities, keep track of all these things, and do it in a safe and secure way. I skipped over it a little earlier, but we've gone through great lengths to make sure that our products aren't just best in class from a user experience perspective, but are also best in class from the security and compliance perspective. So apart from this relationship, Golden actively supports city, state, and federal governments, foundations, highly regulated industries like healthcare. And as a result of that, we protect all of our users' information. We comply with CCPA, GDPR, PDPA, all of the major security guidelines, or I should say personal information guidelines. But then we also get audited regularly for security. We have end-to-end encryption, and we do independent testing to make sure that our systems are very secure. And if we process any personal information of yours that's highly sensitive, we store it in a third-party environment with bank-level security. And those aren't the sets of expectations that you may have had prior, but that's really what we think the state of the industry should be. And if you're volunteering without technology, like you're just going to an organization and you're going through the motions, there's a good chance that whatever protocols they're following are not this secure. And so if you actually care about maintaining your privacy, this is an occasion where digital technology can help you do that much better than in-person technology can. And so as a result of all of that, we've also seen, the industry just totally change the tone of what, when I say the industry, I mean philanthropic sector, nonprofit sector, social sector. Everybody has stepped up their game across the board, not just using these kinds of technologies to change their workflows for engaging you, but they've also had a wholesale reset of how they operate, saying, which of these programs can we digitize? What information can we make more nimble? And it's been very exciting for us to be part of that process, to be easy collaborators, to work with any kind of organization in any sector to help them do that. And in that way, the pandemic's actually been quite a positive thing, because right now, because of all these tools and the willingness to adopt more digital methodologies on behalf of the organizer, more people are getting the care they need in a higher degree of quality. So we're super proud about that, despite the fact that it's been a very difficult year.
Sam, thanks so much for giving that overview. And what you just shared there at the end, it definitely resonates with me. I think about connecting with my friends and family and the digital means to be able to do that, of jumping on a Zoom call or a Google Meet and being able to connect with them more often than I would when I actually saw them in person. So, I do think that there are some silver linings, and I hope that what you shared as far as an overview of the ways that volunteering have changed have motivated some people that are joining us today. We have a couple hundred people on the line who hopefully it's getting them to think a little bit differently about volunteering and the ways that they can give back to their community. So we're going to shift gears just a little bit here, and I'm just going to quickly talk about the partnership and what this means to you all. So Charity Navigator and Golden announced earlier this week on the 22nd that we have partnered together to bring volunteering to Charity Navigator. This is a partnership 2 years in the making, as the title of this slide shows. I came to Charity Navigator about 2 years ago and was introduced to Golden, and then subsequently Sam and Hallie, and was just said, hey, there's this volunteering group that is just winning all these awards, and you have to connect with them. There has to be an overlap, and we found that there was a really a good fit for a partnership. And essentially, what this means is that there's volunteering on Charity Navigator. So the same platform that you've used for years and years to navigate your giving and potentially informing your volunteering and looking for trustworthy organizations, you now have the ability to find and sign up for volunteering opportunities as well as get all the communications. Hallie's actually going to walk through that and just really see this as a really strategic move to be able to provide nonprofits as well as the donors and volunteers that support them best-in-class software to be able to facilitate some incredible lifelong experiences. Now, one of the things that I know is going to come up in the Q&A, so I'll try to address it now, is there's no sort of cost for this at all. There's no money that exchange between Charity Navigator and Golden. We really just see this as an extension of our mission. So the nonprofits aren't being charged. Volunteers aren't charged to be a part of this either. This is really just a matter of trying to make the world a better place and bringing Charity Navigator's ratings and Golden's technology together in one place. And so how we arrived at this decision to work with Golden is we really see Golden as a really innovative approach to volunteering. So hopefully you garnered that from what Sam had shared. But when you really get to experience this, I think what you'll see is that it's if you've done volunteering before, whether it's kind of word of mouth or searching around online, it's basically going from like the yellow pages where you would look up and you'd find this opportunity and you'd call and maybe you leave a voicemail and then get a phone call back and then get some coordination to an experience that's more like Airbnb or DoorDash or something along those lines, where just in a matter of a couple clicks, you can sign up, you can join a volunteer experience, you get all the communication, and it's all done within this mobile app or through the web app. Like Sam had mentioned as well, is that because it is built with this mobile first approach, is that all of the things that you love from your mobile apps of push notifications and being able to locate a place where you're supposed to be navigating to, you get all of that within the Golden experience. Another an interesting thing that Golden recently rolled out was this carrot system. And the carrot is a play on Golden, very clever, not C-A-R-R-O-T, but K-A-R-A-T. And it's really like gamifying the volunteering experience. So you can actually, you can gain points and you can award points to people within your network. And it just makes it a fun way to, essentially kind of level up and gamify the experience of volunteering. And then for nonprofit organizers, they get deep insight into the participant behavior and engagement. So they get a good sense of how you are engaging as part of the part of the volunteer experiences that they're hosting. And really, as far as the future of Charity Navigator is that we've now gone from just having ratings listing onto our site to having giving functionality to now volunteering. And we really just see this as an all-in-one platform that when you're looking to make decisions with your philanthropy, and we really do want you to consider yourself a philanthropist, whether you're giving $5 or $5 million, is that you can come to Charity Navigator and feel that you're making informed decisions and that you're truly making an impact. So one of the areas that I alluded to before is building out the new rating system. And certainly, so there is some initial thinking is looking at volunteer behavior and some of the engagement metrics that come back and how that would inform a Charity Navigator rating potentially in the future. We also see that we're getting a lot of traction with nonprofits. Charity Navigator historically was this place where we rate you based off of your IS Form 990s. There wasn't necessarily a lot of interaction with us in the nonprofits, and based off of developing more of a partnership with the nonprofits, gathering data from them, allowing them to have more control of their profiles, is that we really see this as an opportunity to provide more value-added services to the nonprofits and increase their overall engagement, whether that's fundraising, volunteering, or anything in between. And so what this means for Charity Navigator users, if you go to charitynavigator.org, you'll see very loud and proud on the homepage today, there's a banner about volunteering opportunities on Charity Navigator. And Sam had shared the URL before. It's volunteer.charitynavigator.org. And you'll have the ability to find volunteer opportunities either in person or virtually. And you have some really simple, easy ways to be able to do that. And again, Hallie will walk you through it, but it's a matter of punching in some keywords and adding your location. and you'll see what's included in your area. One thing I will note is that because this is new and we just recently rolled it out for nonprofits, is we are having nonprofits that are actively signing up. And so the volunteer opportunities that you see today may be very different than you see a week from now or a month from now or a year from now. So as you're continuing to explore volunteering, please continue to check back on us.
One other thing I'd love to add to that point too, Kevin, is Golden as a system is an open network. Anybody can sign up for a free account. Any organization you currently work with, your school, your company, there are different versions of Golden, and there's a free version for everybody. And one of the most exciting things about this partnership is it broadens the scope of organizations that can get some exposure to Charity Navigator. You don't need to be necessarily have an existing history with Charity Navigator to participate in this program for free. So if there are programs that you like supporting, it's a great way to start building that relationship, especially if they're working toward a standard of excellence that could eventually be designated with a Charity Navigator rating. So we really want to encourage everybody to be able to take advantage of this. We're an extremely partner-friendly entity. We work with all kinds of different providers, same way Charity Navigator does. And so we're just working to kind of fix these gaps in the user experience of volunteering and to use it in a way to inform decision making for the organizer.
Sam, I'm glad that you mentioned that. And just before we move on, just to expand a little bit on that for some of the people that are joining, one of the beauties of this is that because Charity Navigator, last year we had more than 9 million people access Charity Navigator. And so you can think about how impactful this is for organizations that do need volunteers. And maybe, you're joining and you're working closely with an organization, whether it's a church or a nonprofit organization that you're supporting, is that they then have the opportunity to get in front of whole new networks. So I might have great organizations in my backyard that I don't know about, but I come to Charity Navigator, I punch in my zip code, and now all of a sudden I'm exposed to new organizations. And you can think about how they can garner volunteers and then how those volunteers ultimately become supporters. So if there's an organization that you really care deeply about, they can participate as part of this. They can create a free account and host their volunteer opportunities and raise awareness and potentially funds as well. And then as far as what this means for Golden users as well, so Sam had mentioned that Golden is flexible and that working with a variety of different organizations in different ways, is that both within the experience that you see on Charity Navigator and then elsewhere within the Golden Network, Charity Navigator ratings are included on the nonprofit profile page. So Charity Navigator ratings have long been considered the premier trust indicator of the nonprofit sector. So as you're making choices about where you're volunteering, you do have the comfort of being able to see how they are performing from a financial and accountability and transparency perspective, and then their overall Charity Navigator rating as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to say one other thing on that last slide as well, which is we as an organization have done extensive research to be able to put in front of our users what we think are things that they'll find very appealing. And in fact, we're about twice as effective at giving relevant content to you as Amazon is at recommending products for you to buy. In other words, if you look at the details of an opportunity, the odds are twice as good that you're going to sign up for that activity as it would be to add an item that you're looking at in Amazon to your shopping cart. A big part of how we do that is trying to understand things that are important to you and using them as factors to influence what content we recommend to you and what order. And so Charity Navigator ratings are incredibly effective for us to help make sure that we're promoting very strong organizations. But also if you're in the decision-making process and you want to make sure that you for sure trust or you understand what's happening with the organization, you can know that ahead of time. You don't have to wait until months after coordinating with them and finally going to find out if your expectations matched reality or not. You're operating with total transparency from the beginning.
Absolutely. So what this really means for volunteers is that it's going to be a super easy way for you to find and sign up for volunteer opportunities, either on the Charity Navigator portal or on Golden. You'll never miss a beat. Scheduling, reminders, emails, checking in and checking out, hour tracking, all of that is completely automated. And you can build a rich profile with things like your employer's affiliations, interests, skills, and credentials. And we take that information and what we do is we find opportunities that really fit you as a person. And you'll see those in your feed. You can also run an instant background check, do it once, and you can use it anywhere that you want to volunteer on Golden, which makes it really safe, and it's a safe way to store your info there as well. You'll never miss anything. Again, push notifications, emails, SMS. If an organizer needs to contact you, it's really easy for them to get a hold of you through the app. You'll also be able to share your volunteer contributions, not only with your peers through the app, if you'd like, but you can also share with employers or other organizations who you might want to get credit for your volunteering with. And you can leave feedback for organizers, like photos, reflections, ratings, all of that, and share those with your peers as well too, if you're interested. Great, so how can peers participate? So I know some of the stuff we've talked about today can sound a bit technical, but my absolute favorite thing about Golden is just really how easy it is to use. As you can see from this beautiful GIF here that Kevin made for us, showing the sign up process, it's super user friendly and only takes a few seconds. All you have to do is go to volunteer.charitynavigator.org, as we mentioned before, and input your name, email, and zip code, and you're all set. Creating an account lets you seamlessly track your volunteer engagement and the impact you've made. You can go into your account and see, everything you've done in your history and how many hours you've spent there. And you can also export that if you need to show, a school or employer or anything like that. So the opportunities feed, as we mentioned, is custom tailored to show you opportunities geared towards your favorite organizations, interests, locations, and past engagements. Or you can use the bar on the side to easily search for and filter opportunities to find the perfect match. Maybe you're only available Saturday afternoons. You can quickly search and find everything that's going on during Saturday afternoons in your town. You'll see all sorts of kinds of opportunities, as we also mentioned, local, virtual, remote, more. You can do opportunities that are at set times and some that you can do anytime. All you have to do is just click on the opportunity that you find to get more details, and you can sign up in the click of a button. You can also manage your account and your registrations and cancel it if you need to, all through the system.
Great, thanks so much, Hallie. I really appreciate it. Well, really hope that those that are joining us have garnered a lot, and I'm hopeful that a bunch of questions have come through. If you have not entered your questions and you have a burning one, please feel free to enter it in, and we'll do our best to get to them all. And Stacy, I'm sure you've been managing them. What's come through at this point?
Thanks, Kevin. So again, if you need to find where you would like to send us questions, if you're on a laptop or anything, you should see it on the right side of your screen, so you can type them in there. There's been a question that has come through about background checks. So the question is, do you all charge for the background check? And what does that mean in terms of the background check? What does that mean?
Right. So when we say background check, and if you've ever done a background check, you may be aware that there are lots of different types of background checks. And so we run both what we think represent a fairly comprehensive battery of checks, ones that would be helpful for an organizer to know or use for screening, as well as whatever they tell us additionally is helpful for them to understand their program. So usually what that looks like is federal criminal background check, and if need be, county criminal background check, terrorist watch list check, sex offender check, documentation check, meaning government IDs, identity theft check to see if somebody could be impersonating you, and optional driving record checks if you're going to do like Meals on Wheels or something like that. And we designed this in a way that is volunteer facing, meaning if you're the participant, it's your choice whether you want to run a background check or not. Some opportunities require it, most of them do not. But if it does require it, you can run a check through Golden. When you get your results, you can choose to allow Golden to share those results with others who might need to know your background information. We don't show the details of the check, we just show your overall status. And you know, as somebody, if you've ever done a credit check on yourself, doing a background check kind of feels the same way, where it's just good to know if there's anything out there. A lot of times people have false positives, like a traffic citation you didn't clear, that kind of thing. In other cases, it's really important that you and the organizer know if there's something that's going to affect the way that they deliver their program. And so we're respecting all of your rights as an individual by giving you the results of the check. However, if we know that there's a serious infraction on there, we will suspend you from being able to volunteer on Golden until we've investigated that check. So that's a little bit of the background. You pay a one-time fee of $25, and then you can use that same background check for a year wherever you want to use it. That's a huge cost savings over what it would cost you to do a background check on your own. So if you're going to go to a live scan, for example, that may cost you $75 plus setting an appointment, driving, you know, to a different town or whatever it requires to go get it. And then when you give your personal information to an organizer, you're also not in control of how they handle it and how safely they protect it. And this gives you a bank level way to provide the information the organizer needs from you while making it part of your ability to go volunteer wherever you want without having to do that process again. So we're really proud of that. We were the first people in the world to offer a background check that could be universally useful across the different places in our ecosystem. There's since been others, you know, who have done this, and in many instances we can honor checks from those other systems if they integrate with government databases. But we integrate directly with government databases, which allows us to give you results usually within 30 seconds. And again, that makes us the fastest background checking option available to you.
Thanks, Sam. So another question is, do I register on Charity Navigator or do I register on Golden?
Either. So we invite you to check out the new Charity Navigator portal. We think it's excellent. It's a brand new product. We would love any feedback that you can offer either of us on it. But your credentials will be good across any product that Golden powers, which can mean either of the mobile apps or web apps, or it can mean branded portals that other providers use. And we power a lot of volunteering systems for different nonprofits and governments and companies.
One thing that I want to quickly add on to that is that currently Charity Navigator also has on the other portion of our site where you're tracking charities that you're specifically watching and want to get updates on, or you're logging in to monitor your own giving basket activity, is that they are actually two separate accounts. You can certainly use the same email, but it would be a matter of a separate account at this point for Golden. But we are looking at in the future of how we can integrate the two.
Thanks, Kevin. Another question, do I need to download the mobile app?
You do not need to download it. You can sign up whether you're a new user or an existing user with any organization through any of the products that we've talked about. We love the mobile apps. If you're the sort of person who likes mobile apps, you'll probably like it too, because it can do things like integrate with your calendar and give you a time to leave reminder, and then navigate you to the site, and then check you in and out automatically so you don't have to go check in with somebody. And it can help you keep track of pictures that you took while you were there, or your reflections, and it can make it easier for you to invite your friends to go with you. So these are all things that it's up to you if you want to download the app or give the app the permissions it needs to do those things. But as somebody who uses apps for lots of other stuff in my life, I personally love volunteering with our mobile apps because it just removes all of the headaches of keeping track of the details.
Another question, how does logging, volunteering, and donation history work?
Great question. You own all your own data. When you choose to have a relationship with somebody else through Golden, in some cases, you're giving them permission into certain parts of your data as well. So for example, if you volunteer with an organizer, you are giving the organizer permission to keep track of whether or not you volunteered with them. And that includes capturing things like how much time you spent, the value of that time according to the 990 state tax value for volunteer time, or skills-based volunteer time if you're doing pro bono work or disaster relief work. And that information is then accessible to you and to the organization where you serve. If you want to get credit for that volunteer work, say toward your company volunteering policy or your school requirement or a court-ordered requirement or something like that, you also retain access to your files and you can export them, or you can give permission through an affiliation for somebody to have real-time visibility across all the places where you go to volunteer. But that's up to you, and you can manage it as you please.
One other thing that I want to add to that as well is that that is accessible within your dashboard within the Charity Navigator Golden Partnership. So you will be able to see your own engagement metrics. In addition to that, like I had mentioned before, is on the rest of the Charity Navigator website, when you're making donations through the Giving Basket, if you've created an account there as well, you'll also have the ability to log in and see all of your donation activity as well. So 2 separate logins. Again, you can use the same email, you can use the same password if you so choose to, and you'll be able to use Charity Navigator essentially to manage both.
We've got another question here. How does volunteering affect a nonprofit's rating?
Great, yeah, I can answer that. So at this point, it does not affect a nonprofit's rating. We were kind of looking at some forward-looking exploration into that. And so right now, if you're signing up to volunteer for an organization, that's great, and you should absolutely do that. And we will be looking potentially at the metrics in the future and how that could impact a Charity Navigator rating.
Another question. What are the differences between Charity Navigator ratings and golden ratings?
Sure, I can address that as well. And then I'll tag Sam and Hallie so they can give some more finite details on that too. But Charity Navigator ratings, we have 2 different sets of ratings. We have our star ratings, which you had seen in some of the screenshots that we shared on Golden. So those will help guide your decision making with volunteer opportunities. And those are based off of an organization's finances as well as their accountability and transparency. So essentially their governance metrics. That operates on a 0 to 4-star rating. And then alongside of that, you'll also see some ratings when you're looking at volunteer opportunities that are the golden ratings. And I think that that's where the question is coming from, of the Charity Navigator ratings versus those other ratings. And those ratings, from my understanding, and Sam, you and Hallie can expand on this, is from ratings from other volunteers that have participated with that organization.
Yeah, Hallie, would you care to talk about our 2-way rating system?
Yeah, absolutely. So once you complete an opportunity, you can leave a star rating for it, as well as a written reflection of, you know, what you thought of the opportunity. And then on the other side, internally, organizers can leave a star rating for a volunteer, although you won't see it. It's just for their internal use. So they can mark who, you know, are their favorite volunteers and make sure that they get you to come back.
To confuse things a little bit, Golden operates on a 1 through 5-star scale versus Charity Navigator's 1 through 4-star scale, but we like stars, so go figure. Hopefully everyone can figure it out.
You've talked about this before, but there's another question, and it says, how is my data used and protected?
Okay, this is an excellent question. I'm going to answer it from a Golden standpoint, because from a Charity Navigator standpoint, Kevin's going to know a lot better. But we use the most conservative identity management policies that would be considered to be industry standard, meaning the user owns all the data, the user controls where the data goes. There are some pieces of information that are essential for others to know in order to be able to interact with you the way you would expect them to interact with you in the system. For example, if you want to get credit for the work that you did, the organizer needs to be able to keep a record as well showing that you did the work. Or if you want to get credit from your school for the work that you did, you have to be able to show them all the different places that you went to and did the work. One of the nice things about the way we handle that information is you can control those sharing permissions in real time. So you can just say that you're comfortable sharing it, and then everyone will see who needs to see it. And you don't have to worry about printing out reports and sending them in and getting them certified. Golden will certify everything for you. And you can even do that on your own. You can go into your volunteer history through the Charity Navigator portal or through any Golden product, and you can keep track on your own, even if you're just doing this for personal growth. One of the ways I use the app personally is for journaling. So after I go through an experience, I'll write a reflection just so that when I go back and I look at what I've done over the years, I can see how my thought process has matured or my values have changed depending on what my exposure to different things has been. So it's really up to you if you want to have a personal wellness kind of experience where this is a part of your lifestyle, this is something you do to feel holistically better, or whether it's a vehicle for you to deepen your relationships with the organizations you support or other entities in your life who help curate experiences for you.
Yeah, and Sam, I can add on to that as well. So part of the reason why we're partnering with Golden on this is that it's a group that has spent years and years and millions of dollars in really becoming the experts and really defining and building a world-class volunteer experience, that they have gone through all of the safety protocols, and they are certainly compliant with a lot of different personal identifiable information protocols and guidelines. So we didn't want to start from scratch and build it on our own. We wanted to be able to lean on folks that have already done this. And so what Sam had shared as far as volunteering and the use of data there is exactly how that experience will be through Charity Navigator. We're leveraging Golden's technology, so everything that Sam had described is what you can expect for volunteering through Charity Navigator. Otherwise, your data on Charity Navigator, most of the activity that's going on in Charity Navigator, 99% of it is completely anonymous. It's people that are coming to Charity Navigator profile pages, looking at our ratings, and they're using that information to inform their giving, whether that's on or off of Charity Navigator. In the event that somebody is donating through our giving basket, again, that's completely secure, it's encrypted. Those transactions are facilitated through Network for Good, which is a extremely large donor advised fund that's used for products like Facebook's donations as well. So we're using the same technology there, and they have their own protocol as far as protecting your donor data too. And then for any data that does hit Charity Navigator specifically, is we're never selling that, we're never sharing it. It's just a matter of, from a customer service aspect, and also to generally analyze giving trends internally that informs the content that we put out.
Some other things I'd like to add to that too, just because this is such an important theme, not because we want to belabor really technical points. There's some very pertinent regulations to some of the activities that you would be doing through volunteering. For example, if you volunteer with a minor under the age of 13, then COPA, which is the Children's Privacy Protection Regulations, apply. Or if you are working in a clinical healthcare environment where there is patient information or sensitive personal information being exchanged, then HIPAA applies. And there are others in other sectors, like in financial services, there are a variety of different regulations, for example. We comply with all of them in any situation where we're going to support relevant content. We go through a lot of effort to make sure that we go through legal and security diligence with every partner that we work with at the systems level who's helping us deliver experiences like that. So there's so much that goes into it. We have a whole team totally dedicated to it in the company. And we've had to push the limits here because there weren't really any digital players before who were facilitating these kinds of interactions in a safe way. So we really appreciate the question. Our fundamental assumption is, what can we do to make sure that we use every bit of technical security that can be done? What do we do to control permissions and information in a way that every user would appreciate? And in the cases where we're dealing with like credit card information, background check information, we don't even store those. We just store a record of whether or not you did something with that. And then we use a separate third-party environment that goes through all kinds of different levels of security just to make sure that they're maintaining information appropriately.
Thanks, Sam. Okay, we have one more question. Before I ask the question, I'd just like to remind everyone of the URL that you used. It is live, so you can go to it right now or immediately following this webinar. It's volunteer.charitynavigator.org. And now for our last question, and this is not from a donor, I'm assuming. It's asking, is there a place for a nonprofit to sign up volunteers or to present volunteer opportunities?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Kevin.
I was going to say, I think we could all answer this, but it's actually very simple, and it's very similar to the screen that Hallie had shown before. So if you go to that URL of volunteer.charitynavigator.org, you'll see the create account button in the top right-hand corner, and you'll see an option that appears right at the top that says, I'm actually a nonprofit organization, I want to create an account that way. And again, it's just a matter of entering your information very quickly, your personal information as well as your organization's information, and then you'll get access to an enhanced version of Golden's platform for completely free.
Okay, so that was our last question. I'll actually just now send it back to you, Kevin.
Thank you so much. Well, really appreciate everybody joining and those questions that came through. You can see that there's a lot of interest, and really just encourage you to think that, you know, spring is on the way and there's plenty of volunteer opportunities and ways to make a difference. So definitely check out the site and look at virtual and in-person opportunities near you, and continue to check back on a regular basis. I want to give a big thank you to Sam and Hallie for joining and walking us through all things volunteering, and be sure to go check them out on social media and otherwise. There's lots of great content there, and look forward to seeing you all in the future at more webinars and live streams in the future. So thank you so much, everybody.